I was still in the corporate world working at Microsoft, and we just like connected right away as soon as we met. It was like super duper special. We do have someone in common that introduced, and it's like you guys definitely need to meet. And it was like a match made in heaven. So I also, in addition to why we need to meet, she's a coach and she also has her own podcast. So today I'm going to introduce Sydney Swanigan, and she is a content strategist, storyteller, and a certified co-active professional coach who helps co-parents navigate complex dynamics with clarity and intention. So just to give you a heads up on the episode, we are going to be talking about co-parenting. Next week, we actually have an episode on parenting itself. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Courtney with us, divorce coach, that was talking to us about the complexities of a divorce and what is the difference between a coaching and lawyer when it comes to divorce. But today, I couldn't pass the opportunity to have the amazing Sydney, who has her own podcast, Exes and Babies, which I absolutely adore. And in addition to that, she's an amazing coach and a human being that I absolutely love. So thank you so much, Sydney, for being here today.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for being such an inspiration. I'm glad you have me on the podcast so we can finally talk about some of these things.
Yes, and you're an inspiration to me. I don't know if you remember when I was doing HRK trainings, I was doing the coaching, but I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about potentially doing a podcast. You were one of like those inspiring forces. And also your voice is like perfect podcast voice. I'm like always like, oh, I love how she sounds when she's on the mic. You're an inspiration to me, and I couldn't think about a better person to spend this time with talking about such an important topic. I want to start with like questions because I know if you have questions, please ask us in the chat. We'll gladly answer. But some of the questions that I will have on co-parenting, what's the difference of managing stress at work when you are just a parent, which is already stressful enough, but now you're a co-parent? Can you tell me a little bit about those complexities that you see when you're coaching people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, like many scenarios, it's just a matter of kind of understanding that there'll be challenges no matter what hat you're wearing, right? Whether you're, married and, just parenting and such, or you're divorced and such. But I will say, as far as co-parenting, I think the challenges, it depends, it's case by case, right? But I will say when it comes to co-parenting, there's like the scheduling piece. Scheduling tends to be a real pain point for co-parents, and not that parents don't deal with scheduling. We all parents deal with scheduling. It can be very stressful, especially if you like to have your kid in all these different activities. But I'll say with co-parenting, if you don't have a healthy dynamic and there's any kind of shift, because life is unpredictable,
Yes.
It can be stressful to say like, okay, I'm technically supposed to pick up my son, but there's this thing that came up at work. If you're married to your partner or you're still in a relationship, you can say, hey, I can't do this. Can you just pick him up? But some co-parenting relationships, you don't have that flexibility or that safety to be able to ask for help from each other because there might still be animosity. So it really depends on the co-parenting dynamic. Some co-parents are great with it, like, oh yeah, definitely got him. But that's not the case. So when you're at work or you're trying to navigate that space of scheduling, or also thinking about like even benefits, things like that, it can just get really complicated, I say.
It is. And I think about, we both are in co-parenting partnerships, and not to make this about us, but also to be vulnerable to say, it's not always peaches and cream. And I think that the thing I try to hone back onto the most is who are we doing this for, right? Is it for the child? And kind of like trying to remove ourselves as much as possible from the situation. And I would say, like, for me, at least my experience and what I've seen, especially how it impacts at work, is that sometimes it feels like you're alone in an island. Like, you come into work and you start talking about how hard this co-parenting is or something like that, and people around you haven't experienced that. It's like, okay. I feel like sometimes like divorce, like it feels like, yeah, but you wanted this though. You wanted to be separated, or you're not together. Like almost it was like a choice for you to be in this co-parenting situation. And I'm like, I don't think anybody plans for this is how it's gonna be. And- yeah. Yeah, most people don't, right? And just from your perspective, how can someone navigate those co-parenting conversation at work? So for example, for me,
Mm,
like I felt like a lot of that when I didn't hide it, it became kind of like a perception or a stigma of me not being able to have a balanced work life.
mhm.
And but the times that I hid it, the perception was just fine, just regular parenting. So not saying that hiding it is the right thing, because I no longer hide anything because I'm
Hey,
gonna show up as me. But I think that it's important to bring that up.
yeah, that's an excellent question. And I've actually, so I've always, I have my podcast on co-parenting, so it's hard to hide that.
Mhm.
But I have met teammates where I didn't know until we had like a one-on-one, like sit down where they're like, "Oh, I'm actually a father," and I'm like, "What?" Like, I had no idea. Like, well, I just didn't want to be judged because they're in a situation, like a divorce
Yeah.
or divorce and co-parenting, and just comes with a lot of questions and, like you said, assumptions. And so, for me, I like to, if I am going to share something about myself and I am concerned about, the perception, I usually kind of contain it. I'll be thoughtful, like, why am I sharing this? What do I want to get out of this? And then with myself, that conversation beforehand, and then during it, I might say, this is how my dynamic is, or, I'll give a little bit more to kind of curb some of those assumptions. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a matter of owning your story and just
Yeah.
educating. People just don't understand what that means. For me, when I was co-parenting early days, we were very amicable. So it actually made things pretty easy. I was a week on, week off parent essentially. And so I was
Mhm.
available certain weeks to just stay longer, do more. But the weeks I had my son, I would, go and pick him up and such, and then get back to work at home. But I did find that when I became the primary parent, that I didn't have that flexibility anymore. And I do feel like I've just been in a supportive team where they get it, and they may not get it, but they respect my
Yeah.
dynamic. So it all comes down to like what team you're on and just evaluating if you feel safe to share it and what would it take. Honestly, I'd be curious to know, like, for you, what would have made you feel safe in sharing your parenting status?
I think that, understanding for me the boundary and the balance of like what is okay to share, what's okay not to share. Because I'm like, I don't think there's anything to hide about the fact that I'm in a co-parenting situation, that my daughter, we're a blended family,
Right.
that my daughter comes from my first marriage, like all of that. But she's such a part of our core family. A lot of people like just see me, my husband, and my two kids, and it's like, oh, Full House, story. Like, this is so great. People forget that Full House was actually a blended family. Thank you. Like they
The Brady Bunch. The Brady
the
Bunch.
Brady Bunch. Like so here's something that I learned the hard way. I love your opinion. Is blended families has always existed.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Oh,
always been, like, just go back in history, like 100,000, like a blended family system. It's normal because it's always existed. But there's like, oh, if you're a blended family, what happened? Like, there's a lot of immediate, like, I some a traumatizing word for me when I went through the whole custody thing after the divorce for me, which many co-parents go through, was the word intact family. This is an you're not an intact family. And that word was used a lot in court and through a lot. That word really got to me because I'm like, that's heavy, right? And like, what makes an intact family, right? Because I know a lot of families that are still together, are still working well together, and they're not intact. You have a lot of traumas that were built within that non-blended family. So I think that, just give people the grace
yeah.
of, you know you do not know the background, and not every co-parenting situation has to be a toxic situation.
Exactly.
Yes, there is whatever bothered you in the divorce that made you leave that person is gonna come out 10 times worse after it happens.
Yeah.
Because now there's no reason for the person to be in their best behavior, right? So it's gonna be like whatever annoyed you, if they left the dishes out, the dishes are gonna be out 10 times more, right? So like those are the little things that I have learned throughout. So for me, going back to your question, what I have decided to share is, one, do I feel in a safe space with my manager to share, and how much do I share?
Right.
I also, one thing that I'm very open about is my schedule. So
Mhm.
we are on a 1 week off, 1 week on schedule. The week, so if they're like, "Hey, I need you to work later," I can work later the weeks I don't have to pick my daughter up at school and she's with her dad. So
Right.
any extra projects, or I'll be very open and I don't have to say it in a meeting with 7 people, but I can be like, oh my one on my, with my boss, "Hey, can you do this? Today's I have Blake, this week is a Blake week, so it might be a little hard. I can do it in the morning instead of the afternoon." So
Right.
just make sure that I bring familiar verbiage to what's happening so they understand.
Mhm.
Typically, the problems come is when I try to protect and hide too much.
Right.
And then they're like, "Well, why can't you work late this week? You worked late last week. Are you not going to explain to me why?"
Right.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that I figure out for myself.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for sharing that. And like you said, it's going to depend on the person and your comfort level and the space that's been created for you. For me, I think it's also like how you say it. Like if you seem like in anything you're sharing, if you seem embarrassed about it or something, then they're gonna receive it that way. Versus like I'm a co-parent. We like this is how I co-parent, or I'm a mother. We're divorced or what have you. Like if you sound confident and certain, and like this is my identity, and I'm cool with it. They can feel that. They can sense that, and that will instill some confidence in the person receiving it. I do believe that. But I'll say I've had someone as high as like an EVP tell me like because you've had this life experience of having to be cordial with someone who has broke your heart or been mean to you or horrible, right? Or just didn't work out, right? Because you have that skill set, I know that you would be able to handle tough, dynamics in the workplace. So that was someone very high up saying, like, because you can still, get along with your ex, I know that you would do really well in like a tech space, leadership space, because you can handle conflict and still show up polished and, resilient. So
I
it
love
actually
that.
is great in some people's eyes.
And this is perfect for the next question I have for you. I know boundary setting is important for protecting yourself. Have you had any experience with the parents or your coaching where two like boundaries gone wrong, right? Like that you had too many boundaries and it ends up affecting the co-parenting relationship.
Mm. I don't know if there's such thing as too many boundaries. I haven't had that particular case with my clients because my clients don't have enough boundaries a lot of the time. We're in the process of getting those boundaries going. But I will say, even if it's not the amount, the quantity of boundaries, it could be the quality of the boundary, right? Like, where
Mhm.
is the boundary coming from? I've had my ex try to set a boundary where he didn't want our son to do a certain sport because it was on the weekend, and that would mean him and I would need to do, drop off, pick up at his house.
Mm.
And I was like, well, what is the point of this boundary? Like, how? And think about the child. Like, how is this impacting the child? What are you actually worried about? Or is this just like another way of control, right? Another way of feeling like you're in control. So I think it really just comes down to like what is driving the boundary. Is it child centered? And child centered doesn't mean you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations all the time. Like there are times where you can choose your comfort, especially if you feel truly unsafe.
Yeah.
It's important for children to see us choose ourselves and being safe, but it's just a balance, right? It's just case by case, it's a balance. But I do for each boundary, it's like, what is driving this? Is this because I'm just fed up or I'm embarrassed or whatever it is? Or is it actually because I need this here so I can have this container and be able to parent well for our children.
I love that. What is, in your opinion, one of the things that is the biggest struggle for co-parents when that could end up affecting their stress level the most?
Mm, trying to control each other. Oh,
Oh,
that's an easy one. I even have co-parents who I have co-parents who they're maybe not like high conflict. They're not high conflict. They're not abusive or anything like that. However, they still think, okay, well, if I say this thing, then they'll change. Or I just need to talk to them. Or our daughter needs to just tell her father how she feels. And I'm like, okay, yes, but let's be clear on what that intention is. Is your intention to tell them this so that you can get off your chest because you're working on expressing yourself, or is it because you're actually trying to make someone change? Because the moment you are doing something because you want someone to change, first of all, you're setting yourself up for potential failure. I mean, you should
mhm.
measure success off of what you can control, not
Yeah.
based off of what other people will do. And the moment I encourage my clients as well as myself, I had to get in that space of like, okay, what can I do that I'm in control of to
Mm.
make it better? How can I lean on my community sometimes? I do think you should express the expectation, but after that, what happens with that expression,
Yeah.
there's not, you can't expect them to change essentially. But I do think it's okay to share the expectation. I highly encourage it. But what happens afterwards is another story, and you might have to have a plan B for getting whatever you need done.
Yeah. I love that because that's a big one for people that like control gives them peace, and to have their
Mhm.
routines and their things is like a
Like,
peaceful feeling for them.
right.
Um for me, like when I think about that, it's very interesting because like uh, especially with me, like how do you control the uncontrollable? Like I complain about my son sometimes because I'm like, man, is his will or the highway? And I'm like, I have those tendencies. I'm like, no, So for me, I had to change the allowing, which has
Mhm.
been not just in co-parenting, but in life, like allowing life to happen, allowing things to set. And I think that's something that I have seen is that sometimes the parent that is the loudest about the behavior of the other parent, it's the one who gets shut down the most because they're highly emotional. So something that I have adapted, learned, and read is just back off. What's the intention? Is the daughter you need your daughter needs X, Y, or Z? What's the best way and the fastest way for my daughter to get what she needs or my son to get what he needs?
Right.
And that helps. I think, I will say the hardships of co-parenting has made me a better parent to my now husband, because I think that co-parenting with the spouse or the next spouse or someone that you used to have a relationship with, it like highlights all the things that you could do better, whether you want to or not. Do you
Right.
agree with that?
It's like a mirror, like a light.
Like a bear.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't even know I had. I mean, we all have things to work on, but even personally, I was like, oh, I realized I would do things because I knew it would get a certain result, and my heart was pure. Like the result would be helping our child.
Yes.
But once that shifted a little bit more, I was like, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing here, and how I need to shift things, and really just like you were saying, allowing acceptance.
Allow it.
I've had to support co-parent clients around that and myself around just accepting, like sometimes we might have to lower the expectations of folks.
Yes.
At
Yes.
times I know a lot of folks, it's about fair and it's what's not fair. It was 50-50 to bring this kid into the world, right? Well, not everyone is equipped with the same things.
Yes.
Like someone to be able to generate a certain amount of income when they've got all this stuff in their head about them not being able to, all these things that they're dealing with, you know, that's not going to change them. Like you can't change them, and to keep expecting that actually just harms you because you keep getting disappointed and let down, versus
Yes.
accepting and then finding other ways to get it done. So I do believe that's got me a lot of peace of mind for sure. And my clients are like, okay, they want to feel control. Like, you do have control. It's the things that you control though.
Yes,
How you
exactly.
do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk to you forever, and I want this conversation to last a long time. And you're definitely going to be back because we need to do it in person for sure.
Oh, yes.
Like we got to do this in person. I miss you, first of all. I
I'm
need
gonna come see you.
I need you to come eat some crab legs here in Baltimore.
Oh, say
Like
what?
I across the street. Like it's incredible. It's so good. Like we have to make it happen. Before
Absolutely.
before we go and move into phone conversations, because we got so much to catch up on. Is there one tool that you can recommend for someone to use that can help them stay grounded, especially when stakes are high?
I would say co-parent coaching if you don't have one and you don't have the resources or the time. AI. I
Yes.
everything
It
AI.
helps so much with communication and emails and text
And
and
like I'm gonna be I make my AI be honest with me. I want it to challenge me. Every response it gives me, it will challenge me. It's like I'm gonna challenge you here, based off of the things I know about you. Right now you're doing that thing again, whatever it is.
yes.
You don't need to do that, or you need to come down, or it's actually not as bad as you think. Like sometimes the AI will give you a little bit of that extra support. Not just like, here's what you should say, but like, chill, you're gonna be okay. You're actually
Yeah.
doing great. Whatever you need to hear at that time.
I absolutely love that. That's great advice. And so we are gonna have everyone. Thank you so much for today. We're going to put all of the information for Sydney for her coaching firm, as well as her podcast, which is amazing, and I listen to on a regular. So thank you for it. And this has been a great conversation. I know this will affect many parents that are co-parenting in silence. And if I have to leave you with anything, is like it's not the same, and it brings different challenges. You're not just being a parent, you're also trying to navigate different personalities and trying to parent at the same time. So stay strong, get help. And Sydney, thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for all that you do. And your content is amazing. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you.